Welcome back to the Purpose Babe Show. I'm your host, Corie Clark, and this is the last day of 2021. At least when you're listening to this, it is. And I can't believe it. I can't believe this year's over, but I am so excited to get into the new year. I hope you are too. I just am very hopeful for the future and for all the things that are going to be happening around here, for our family, for my business, for all that good stuff. And I hope that you are excited too, because, you know, it's been a pretty bummer of a couple years for everybody, right? But I just think that we can look back, we can take what we've learned and take those lessons and move forward and not worry about what happened in the past, not dwell on it, don't let it hold you back. I just actually today posted on Instagram, I posted a little quote card that said, "Don't let past failures and disappointments determine your beliefs about the future." I think a lot of times we can get frustrated when things aren't working out or going our way, and then it can keep us from holding ourselves back and not dreaming big and not stepping into the things that God's calling us to. And we can question those things and doubt them. And so I really just want to encourage you to not let those disappointments determine like your hope for the future. Okay? Don't let them be any kind of influence on it. And just look into this next year with hope, with excitement, with belief, and start believing the things that God has asked of you and told you, and start, planning and preparing and taking action on those things. I'm just so excited, and I am here to cheer you on and to help you however I can. Like I said in our last couple episodes, we do have the 30 Days of Purpose Challenge starting January 2nd. So that's just in a couple days, and it's not too late for you to sign up. And it's going to be really fun. It's going to be inspirational. It's going to be exciting. I've got trainings for you, accountability. We're going to do some special little bonus guest trainings that I'm super excited about. So if you have not saved your seat yet, please do. Just push pause right now on the podcast, go get your seat saved, and then come back and listen. And if you haven't listened to the last few episodes, I highly recommend listening to them. They're just going to help you wrap up this year and get inspired for 2022. So today's episode is my second interview that I did with Dr. Matt Hubbard, who is also a very close friend. We've known each other since high school. He's an amazing guy. So if you didn't listen to part 1 from last week, listen, or actually, I guess it was just a few days ago. I can't keep track of the days anymore. But yes, if you have not listened to the previous episode, to episode 70 with Matt, then listen to that one. It was really good. And then we followed up that interview with today's interview, and we kind of go over a whole bunch of stuff, being a kingdom entrepreneur, but we touch on gossip and praying for your spouse, sharing the gospel. I mean, we kind of covered a whole bunch of stuff in this quick little interview, but it is definitely worth the listen. There is lots of gold in there, and I just hope that it inspires you and encourages you to step into the things that God has called you to be listening to the Holy Spirit and to be doing the things that He's asked you to do, and not the things that you're kind of dreaming and scheming on your own. okay? Because He will grace you for the things that He's called you to. So I hope that this episode encourages you and gets you excited for 2022. I pray that you have an amazing New Year's Eve and New Year's Day with people that you love. And I pray that you get excited for 2022. You know, I keep seeing all these memes and they're funny and, you know, kind of just joking about, oh no, well, we don't know what this year is going to be, so we're not going to even set goals. Like, I get it, but like, I do believe that you can speak life into those things. So speak life into your new year, speak life into your family, into your community, speak life over our country, and really just get back to embracing life and living it to the fullest. All right, you guys, enjoy this episode, and I will be back here next week with our first episode of 2022, and I'm really excited and can't wait to see what God has in store for all of us next year.
Hey, everybody, this is Dr. Matt Hubbard. I'm excited for this amazing interview with the Total Lady Boss, Mrs. Corie Clark, a mother, an entrepreneur. Obviously, she knows what's up. Look at her hair. I mean, your hair is glowing. Hello. You might know a thing or two about that. I mean, I need all the advice I can get, especially thickening shampoo at this point. But, you know, I'm so glad you're with us. I know that you have a specific, pretty much niche. I know you do a lot of amazing things, but your latest kind of 2.0 Corie Clark is Purpose Babe Society. And you kind of attract entrepreneurs that are women that are kingdom based, meaning they love Jesus, they want to advance the kingdom. And that's kind of your niche right now. And your goal is to empower as many women as possible in that niche. And in this segment, you're really speaking to women that are either entrepreneurs, that want to be entrepreneurs, that are trying to figure out, how do I juggle my freaking husband, my kids, my chaos, and still do this dream, what God has given me on the inside. There's a calling. And how do I do what Corie's doing? How do you empower these women? How do they get to where you are being an influencer? You're a blogger. You're still an incredible mom. You're still an incredible wife with amazing marriage. You still love Jesus. How do you do it?
Through Jesus.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me. And you know what? I mean, that's really the truth. Like I could be done talking to you in like 2 minutes and say, like, know who Jesus is and know what your purpose is, you know, and stick to it. But I do know, I mean, yes, life gets in the way. Things are coming at us from every direction and it's hard. And as women, you know, I believe like God created us so uniquely and we are good at doing multiple things. We're better at multitasking than men, but we have to let that like not cripple us either. Doesn't mean you say yes to everything, right? And so for me, like when I was first pursuing like my dreams that I felt like God had put on my heart, I had to be super clear on what my purpose was. And I swear to you, the most like issues women have with trying to run a business and trying to take care of their family is they have not built either of those things on like this foundation of purpose, right? And, you know, I think as Christians, as kingdom builders, as kingdom entrepreneurs, we all have like basically like kind of the same overhead purpose, right? It's to bring glory to God, it's to further his kingdom. But like below that, then we have unique like passions and things that we're good at that God specifically calls us into. And we have to know like what that number one is. Like, is this going to bring glory to God? And like number two, is this what he's calling me to do? Because when you start to do the things that he's not calling you to do, that's when you're toiling, right? I forget which verse it is in Proverbs, but he does not make you toil. And so if you're toiling and you're striving and you can't keep up with your life, it's probably not what God's called you to do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you're not going to ever have work. There's work and there's discipline, but it's just knowing that this is what God's called me to do. This is how he has uniquely made me. And, but outside of business, like if you don't take care of yourself, your spiritual self, your mental, your actual physical health, if you can't take care of that and take care of the husband God's given you, the children's God's given you, the home God's given you, you're not going to be able to take care of your business. And so it seems like counterintuitive where it's like, gosh, I don't want to spend time doing my devotional this morning. I got some work to do, or I don't want to have, playtime with my kids. I got work to do. I don't want to clean. Those things, like you need to make sure those things are taken care of. And if you want to hire someone to clean your house, awesome, do it. But like, make sure that your personal life, your marriage, your home life is in order so that you can like step into that authority God's given you. And I really don't think God will give you authority in your industry or in your niche if you can't be responsible with the other things he's already given you.
Yeah.
And so yeah, for me, it was really just about looking at what has God given me and being faithful with the first of each of those areas, right? We learned that with tithing to like tithe the first 10%, but like if you kind of look at that with your time, like give the first of your day to God and give, dedicate like a certain amount of time to moving your body. And if you're faithful with those firsts in your day and in your life, like God's going to give you so much more time and energy to do these things he's called you to do. And I think as women, we also like to like be in control, and it's hard to be like, okay, God, I'm giving you this. But when you learn to just like open your hands and say, okay, God, like I'm trusting you. I'm going to give myself and my husband and my family, this many hours in the day, and I'm going to trust you to like give me the strength and energy to run my business the other few hours of the day. And it's, I think at least for me and a lot of women I know, we want to control things and we want to know how it's all going to work out. And sometimes you just can't. You have to learn how to trust God.
Yeah, that's so good. Let me ask you this from a guy's perspective. How do you help women? Because I do believe talking about open loops in your brain, like your mind only has so much capacity to process. And I'm bringing this up because I know in your former career, you were a hairstylist and an amazing one.
Thank you.
How do you stop women from gossiping and just creating a cesspool of chaos where I've seen a lot of women that are victims because of gossip and chaos and these girls that just chatter all the time, being a pastor and an entrepreneur? How can you ever step into the next level? How do you break that cycle of cattiness or gossip or whatever you call that thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because dudes don't do
all
that.
of that. I know, right? I've learned to not surround myself with people that do that. Or if I'm in a situation like that, I mean, it's the worst at church, honestly. I haven't found that yet here because, we've only lived in Tennessee for a year. So we're just starting to make friends and stuff. But when we lived in Southern California, there was a lot of cattiness and gossiping always happening. And if it's me in that situation, I have to try to change the subject or I walk away. Like I will not partake in it. And I think especially like, I don't know how many women are watching this or how many women are married, but it's very unhealthy to be around women who are complaining about their husbands, complaining about their kids, complaining about friends, whatever. It's so unhealthy. And it's like I don't talk bad about my husband to anybody ever. And sometimes women just don't think it's a big deal. It's like they're just like, oh, he's just always leaves a mess. And I'm just like, for me, it was learning like, would his friend talk about him like this? Like, no. Like, would another man talk about my husband that way, or would he nag him that way? No. So I'm not going to, and learning to respect him. And so, which that's what the Bible says. It says, wives, respect your husbands. And so learning to, I'm not going to lie and say we never fight or I never nag him. I'm a human, but I have learned
a feisty human.
I am a feisty human. And so, yes, like whatever, we still have our little arguments and, snip at each other, but learning to surround yourself with other women who will, they will lift up their husbands. They will lift up their friends. They will encourage, you just cannot continue to be around people who are like that. And if it's a close friend, like be open, have a conversation. I think like that just like communication destroys relationships or lack of, because I feel like any marriage that falls apart comes down to communication. Like, sure, there might be finance stuff, but it's because you're not talking about it. Or, there might be other issues, but it's usually because you're not talking about it. So the same thing with your friends. If you can't have a conversation with a friend and like say, hey, like, I don't think we should be talking like this anymore. If you can't have that conversation with them, they're probably not a good friend and not someone you should be spending time with. You should be able to have an honest, open conversation with your friend and say, hey, like, we really should not be talking about these people. They're not here to defend themselves. It's just so unhealthy. So thankfully, I don't have a lot of friends like that,
well, you created that based on your values. So it's not a default. You were intentional about that. And I think a lot of women need to hear they got to set the bar somewhere because they've been tolerating it. But how are you going to ever be an entrepreneur? How are you going to ever be a leader? How are you going to go after your dream if you can't get rid of the little foxes that God's trying to highlight? Like, honor your husband, protect your family. God's given it to you. And if you can't be faithful in little, how are you going to be faithful in much? And I think it's just a thing. You got to start somewhere, but no, one, it's a problem. And my wife the same way. She used to have a lot of catty friends, and then she raised the bar, which she raised the standard. And it's amazing as she started to trim off the fat, if you will. God brought her more incredible, uplifting, encouraging friends. Her language changed, how she thinks changes. She started having dreams of her own. I think a lot of women just get stuck in their little circle of gossip. They don't even realize they're not fulfilling what God's given purpose for their life was because they're so caught up in their other people's drama.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They live for ladies' night and wine night because that's what they're going to sit around and do.
What purpose? Wow. Another wine night.
I know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I prefer a margarita, I love having my girlfriends over, but nowadays we have more fun talking about like the government and what's going down in our country. But, and our dreams and our businesses, like those are the people I love to be around. And yes, you're right. I did create that because there was a time before we moved where it was like the friends we were hanging out with, they weren't bad people, but it was just kind of like empty, everybody just got together just to get together and everybody, we're just going to have some drinks and just get together. And there was nothing fruitful from it. And it was consuming a lot of our life, like several nights a week. And I was just like, I never feel good when I get home, like about what we've done. Like, not that we did anything bad, but there was just nothing like building us up. So it was just kind of this empty, wasted time. And so we started kind of like removing ourselves from that, not spending as much time with those people. And like I said, they're not bad people. They're still our friends. But it was just a matter of like, we're not going to spend a lot of time with these people because it doesn't build us up and it just kind of makes us feel empty. And so I think that also kind of like, I know God knew what he was doing because it sure made the move a lot easier when we needed to move out to Tennessee. So and now it's like,
I was thinking to myself, I could see that it could definitely happen that way. And we live in such a bubble, so the other night on a date night, I missed 2 date nights. My wife was at a women's conference 2 weekends in a row. And so I finally said, that's it. We're doing a date night. So I flew her to Vegas. We went to a comedy club where one of my guys was headlining, but he had 2 guys that opened. They were so crass. It was so nasty.
Mm.
I'm thinking to myself, babe, we live in a bubble. Like, I look at all these other people laughing. I didn't laugh at one joke because they were so stupid. You know, I'm like, wow, I got to help level up some of these guys in this room. And my wife and I had a great conversation, but we had a great night. Then my buddy got up and he was hilarious, clean comedian that we laughed our faces off. Then we went out afterwards. But I realized I live in a total bubble. My church world, my bubble world, my business world, my entrepreneur. I'm around so many like-minded individuals, and my circle's not small. It's pretty massive. But I've insulated myself with high achievers that want to change the world. It's refreshing. But then when you get out of that bubble, I go, there's more people that need Jesus. There's more people that I need to bring in. But I remember something we started. It was Purpose Wine Nights. And literally we'd hold, you know, once a month, and it'd be like, all right, Purpose Wine Night. This one's on dreams. So everybody bring a bottle of wine. I'd hire what do you call it? Sommelier. And whoever won, I'd give a gift certificate, $150. They'd get to win whoever brought the best bottle of wine on blind taste test with the Somm that was there. So it was fun. But then we do one on dreams. All right. And we just sit around and talk about what dreams we have and how we can help open doors for each other. One was on parenting. One was on money. One was on investing. And for 12 months, once a month, we were drinking great wine. Margaritas sound better, but that would be a short night for me. One margarita, I'd be done talking. I'm such a lightweight. But I thought to myself, man, we built up, like, there was a wait list for people to come to these.
Love it.
And I go, wow, we were so intentional. We got to get back to those, because we got to restart that up in our new neighborhood. But if you could just create fun things to get people, I want to go after one other sacred cow. You ready to tackle this? I need one more Corie Clark wisdom.
Okay.
Because what you got's gold. What do you do if you're a woman, you have this desire, you want to do this business, you've been a stay-at-home mom, or you're in this job that you hate, whatever the case may be, and you have a God dream, but your husband's not on board. And I know you have an amazing husband. Not everybody does.
Yeah.
But how do you talk to those women that feel like their husband's not supporting their dream?
And I have had to talk to women about this, and it's hard because I can't speak from personal experience, because my husband is like my biggest cheerleader, believes like whatever.
He's got to be Jesus's brother. He's so annoying. He makes me look back. My wife's like, can you be like Corey's husband? I'm like, no, he's a drummer. I'm not. That's where he gets all his frustration out. Yeah. Well, he doesn't drum anymore, but he's a pretty good guy. He's pretty amazing. He's pretty perfect.
Wow. But
Thanks,
hey, you're an amazing husband too. I did see you fly your wife to Vegas, and I was like, Brian, this is our next goal.
Trying to level up. We're trying to level up.
No, I think this comes down to something. It's actually, in my opinion, it's very spiritual, in the sense where I don't think you should shove it in his face. I think you should just pray for him that God would open his eyes to see it. And you mind your business when it comes to that. You know, you make sure that your relationship with God is number one, your relationship with your husband is number two, your relationship with your children is number three. And if God has called you to something, you keep sowing into that, doing what he's asking you to do, and don't worry about your husband being on board, because I promise you, if it's what God wants, and if you're being obedient, he will see it. He will end up seeing it, you know? And even if it takes years, if it's just seeing like, oh, wow, like, you know, it's kind of funny. It's almost like, I've had people that they talk about my business like it's like this little thing. It's like a little hobby. And they might not ever see it the way I see it or what the reality of it is, but I can't let that keep me from doing what I've been called to do, you know? So I think it's the same with your husband, but your marriage is so much more important than your business. So don't ever let it come between you. And I think it's just praying and asking
Yeah.
God, like, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to continue to pray that, my husband sees this and gets excited with me. And, God can do it so much better than you can, you can try and convince. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Your lion picture popped up.
I know. Someone randomly called. I'm like,
Oh,
okay, not on airplane mode.
It's okay.
Right when you're dropping a God bomb.
I know. I'm like, distraction. No.
Yeah.
I think your marriage is more important. And I think that you could try and scheme and come up with your own plan to get your husband on board, but God is always so much better at that stuff, and let it be something that God does, because in my opinion, that's the whole, it just comes down to everything you do in life. And especially as business owners, you can say, oh, look what I built, or you can be like, look what God did with me. Look what God built. Look what God's done. And I've seen these high profile, entrepreneur couples, their marriage has fallen apart, and they always were boastful. Like, I built this. This is my empire. And it's like, no, you just let God be the leader in your marriage, in your family, in your business, and you be obedient. If he's calling you to do something, do it, and let him be God over your husband. You don't get to be that.
I think that is probably the greatest wisdom I've heard. I really think I think more and more women, I've never had so many conversations with men about what this season of COVID has brought to the surface. They realize something bigger than what's going on is spiritual warfare. And I'm watching families either completely destruct because they don't have anything, their house wasn't built on the rock, or come together tighter than they've ever come. There's no more middle.
Yeah.
There's either train wrecking or, total unity.
Yeah.
And I think that will help a lot of women see it, because listen, God knows how to talk to your husband.
Yeah.
I don't think enough women understand we need someone praying for us all the time. And we want that revelation. I want my wife to walk in her God calling.
Yeah.
So I think that's great wisdom. I think it's great wisdom. I appreciate you sharing that. How can the ladies find you?
You can go to CorieClark.com, or I'm on Instagram, just my name, Corie Clark. I love to connect with people on Instagram.
And then coming to your Purpose Babe Society, what is that? And what type of women do you attract in that? What do you want? What's if you had to put it out there and cast the net, and I know there's a limit, a wait list, but if you could pick the perfect woman that you want to be a part of your tribe, who would it be?
Yeah, it is a Christian woman who knows that God has called her to something bigger, who isn't afraid to step into that authority and wants to create abundance in her life and business, not just her business, and wants to further the kingdom, and so it actually, because of COVID, like you said, it's definitely been this shift over the last couple of years. And what it's done for me is it's brought me closer to God. It's brought me closer to my husband, closer to my kids. And it's really, before it used to just be like, oh, I help business women, I help entrepreneurs. And, yes, they knew I was a Christian, but it wasn't made for Christian women. And I have completely shifted it. And, if people don't like it, they don't have to stay. And it's for Christian women who want to further the kingdom, and they want to be bold, and they want to stand up for what's right. And, they have the same values as me. And so, we go through, I have a framework in there for how I built my business, and we do talk strategy, but we also talk hey, how do you let God have control of your business? Tithing from your business and getting your business finances, in that same kingdom order, and so, yeah, I love the ladies in there, and it's definitely my passion, because I do think there's a lot of women who, it's something I struggled with, was I knew I had this calling that I needed to step into. And, those catty women that they can talk bad about you, and they think you're trying to do it because you're trying to be popular. And it's no, I am just going to continue to be bold, be truthful, and keep doing what God asked me to do, you know?
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, listen, check that out. And Corie, listen, you said any woman that signs up for your Purpose Babe Society, I will send them, just get me their email and their name. I will send them. We just did a Cherish conference called Fearless. We had 2,000 women come through. It was probably the most radical women's conference. And I snuck in for a couple sessions. It was radical. I will literally sew the media card into them for free if they sign up. So you just, if people hear this and whatever, and they come and they go, hey, I heard your interview with Dr. Matt, whether they're a maverick entrepreneur or not, and they sign up with you, you send me their email and I'll drop in the media card for that. Because there was keynote, especially this one woman, she spoke on setting broken bones. Don't let the pain, like if you broke your arm and no one put it in alignment right and it healed wrong, don't be afraid to go get that thing reset so you can have what you were designed to have, which means a perfect arm, heal. But a lot of people settle because they're so afraid of re-breaking that arm to get it healed the right way. They have a dysfunctional arm they can't use because they're too afraid of the pain it's going to take to go do it right. It's called setting broken bones. And that one alone is going to help restore a lot of women. So I want to bless, that's just one, there's lots of them, but, and I'll send you the media card too, because all those women need to hear it. That's number one. The second thing too is just encourage women here. You might say, well, define a Christian. That means that you have Jesus in your heart. And that's a simple prayer. And anybody watching, you can reach out to Corie, reach out to me. We're not trying to start a religion. We're not trying to start a cult. We're not trying to get you to do anything. We just know eternity is on the line and your salvation matters. And there's an alignment. So she said, yeah, I want Christian women that are kingdom. You might not be used to that verbiage. You might say, well, I'm a good person. Well, listen, good person doesn't get you to heaven. Jesus does. And it's a free gift. You don't have to like perform, or you don't become a part of a religion. If you think about all the religions out there, a lot of those religions make you wear external things. So you can tell what, like, oh, they must be that. They must be, because you can tell what they're wearing. Christianity, a true disciple of Christ, you don't know, but you should know by their fruit. It's not about you, what you wear. It's about your heart. And so we want to give you that heart decision. So DM us, email us, whatever. And it's a simple prayer that we would love to pray with you in person. It's not a bar trick. It's not raising your hand for the kingdom. It's just like, hey, I made a decision. I need Jesus in my life because my marriage needs to be better. My kids are off the rails. I want to live under blessing. We were made by God for God, and we need Jesus in our life. And so I just felt, I've never done this before on an interview. I felt like somebody watching, if it was one person said, I need Jesus in my heart, this conversation matters for them, and this whole interview is worth it. Says when one person receives Jesus, there's a party in heaven. Angels celebrate. And I rather God know that, hey, we started off doing a business podcast, business kind of funnel. Get in my funnel, baby. But no, this is about souls and soul winning.
Exactly.
And setting up people for soul purpose. And so I appreciate you, Corie, for jumping on today. Thank you for this time, this interview.
Thank you.
And I hope you ladies that are watching have maybe an aha moment. It's okay to talk about sacred cows, get rid of the drama and the gossip, go after your dreams, and pray your husband on board are some of the nuggets that I took. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. God bless. Thanks, Corie.